today's episode of UGC Workshop Live, we are covering AI Visibility 101, how to audit and improve your Generative Engine Optimization, your GEO, right? AI Visibility, for those who don't know, is our new Generative Engine Optimization, GEO dashboard in MarketScale Studio. This is the new toolkit that is here to help guide your content strategy, not just let you know how you're being cited and mentioned by LLMs, but more importantly, what you should do about it, right? So with today's episode, again, we launched AI Visibility recently as a feature in MarketScale Studio. Today is a full deep dive on how to actually use it. So make sure you got your notepads, make sure you're ready to log some notes here. And if you don't have access to AI Viz yet, get in touch with your director or UGC coach because we may be able to hook you up. So this is a deep dive to follow our launch session, which was 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. Today is really about building an audit habit, a GEO audit habit that you can run every week so that you can take these insights and turn them into real content you can ship out to your community and on your various channels. So you're going to leave with a weekly cadence today, right? Or really an overall cadence. What should you be auditing quarterly? What should you be auditing monthly? What should you be auditing weekly or daily, right? And you're going to get a workflow for taking these recommendations and actually executing them in MarketScale Studio and with your community creators, your colleagues, customers, channel partners, right? The lifeblood of you in UGC. So I'd like to welcome our guest today who has been at the forefront of launching AI Visibility here at MarketScale. He's been in the weeds, helping fine-tune and calibrate the platform for you guys, our B2B pros. And he's here to give us that cadence, that weekly workflow that you guys can put to work to level up your content using a GEO radar. So I'd like to welcome our Chief Commercial Officer, Mr. Brandon Morgan. M-I-Z, Brandon.
Z-O-U. There we go.
There it is, baby.
Happy to be here.
There it is. The Mizzou boys back together.
That's right.
Thanks for being here, man. How's your week been so far?
It's been great. We've actually launched a couple new elements to AI Visibility. We're going to talk about that today. So really excited about that. Been focusing on that all week. But hey, what do you have for me? I'm pumped for this session.
Yeah, man. So let's start high level with a just question here. GEO, ChatGPT, Gemini, mapping your content to LLMs. This is front of mind for a lot of marketers. Even if they don't have a firm GEO strategy yet, it's definitely that kind of like looming cloud. We got to start doing something about this if we're not now, right? Mm-hmm. Why is it so critical that this become not a side strategy, but really one of the leading metrics that determine how you craft new content, new marketing pillars, and new comms?
Well, we've seen that users are increasingly going to a no-click search model. So whether that was originally with a Google search that they then didn't click anything, they just took the AI-generated result at the top of the page, to now not even going to Google necessarily, and instead going directly to the LLM of your choice, ChatGPT, Gemini, big on Claude lately. I'll put a plug out there for Claude. But at this point, this is the new SEO. And obviously everyone knew SEO was so important. How do we get our website found? How do we get our website to rank, in that top 5, that top 3 even. So now it's how do we appear when users search via ChatGPT or via these LLMs? So this is a natural evolution. Good news for a lot of people. A lot of the things you did to set your sites up for success with the SEO era are still important. They're still going to help you. But now some of the angles or some of the ways that you can improve your ranking within the new GEO landscape have a lot to do with authentic content, expert-driven content, thought leadership, and user-generated content. So that's sort of one of the shifts. The days of kind of amplifying just your website web copy are behind us at this point. So that's why this matters, right? And I know that this is not just something that is being talked about between marketers. This is in the boardroom as well. So it's a critical thing for our customers and really for any business at this stage.
100%. So today's workshop, folks, is not us pitching you on why GEO matters, but we're going to just assume that we're all on the same page there. This does matter, okay? It is the new meta of how people are engaging with a curiosity, right? If you've got a question, you're probably going to GPT or DeepSeek or Gemini or Perplexity or whatever the heck, and you're asking it a question. I actually would love to hear in chat here, folks, what is the last question you posed to an LLM? Could literally be, what should I wear this morning? Picture of my closet. I would just love to see how you guys are using this casually as consumers and searchers yourselves. So throw that in chat. What's the last question you asked ChatGPT or Gemini? Make this email better. Love that, Charlie. Yep, that's a classic. That's a classic. But yeah, throw them in there because we'll use those as examples here as we continue to dig into our GEO strategy here. But let's go ahead and dive right in, folks. I want to get right into the meat here. So AI Visibility 101. We're going to start here. Let's recap. What does it mean to craft a GEO strategy? It starts with understanding what you're even measuring for, right? So the new scoreboard is, are you seen and are you trusted by LLMs? Think about how these work, right? They are pulling millions and millions and millions of nodes from across the internet from their own large language model on the back end. And they are looking for authority. Authority is the main currency here that's going to elevate your brand and start to include you in answers on an LLM prompt when you ask an AI a question. So a lot of brands are still just straight up invisible. Even big brands out there, you'd be surprised, right? You ask a question, what should I use? What's the best brand for X, Y, and Z, metal fabrication, whatever. They don't show up at all. Now, what's a little better? Being mentioned. Okay, the AI knows you exist. It's aware of your presence. So it's going to at least mention your brand, right? The best place to be is that you're being cited. Not only is your brand actually kind of competing for visibility amongst your competitors, but your content, again, your content and your people, your expertise are being cited as trust receipts. You are now a source of truth around practical how-to related questions, for example, right? So if you're Adobe, of course, it's great that if you say, hey, what's the best editing software out there? Likely Adobe Premiere is going to come up. But if you ask an LLM, what is the best way to quickly edit a 60-second social media snippet? Adobe wants to make sure that it has articles and content that gets cited as the source of truth in that answer. That's where we're playing our content strategy game as we refine GEO, right? Brandon, what are your thoughts here, right? How does this compare to how, marketers have been approaching SEO in the past compared to GEO? And any immediate tips here as we kind of wrap our heads around this guiding our content strategy?
So let's just start by kind of breaking down what we mean with mentioned and cited. So a mention is merely a mention of your brand name in an answer. Obviously that's good. That's important. We want to make sure that happens. Being cited that's actually domains. So that's going to be URLs that are used as the source for that LLM's answer. So in the perfect world, our content, one of our pages on our website actually gets cited for, that answer. There are other citations that matter, though, especially when you think about user-generated content. So as you look through AI visibility, you're going to notice a lot of citations from Reddit. And maybe that surprises you at first, but it really shouldn't, because what that's telling you is that the LLMs are valuing real, authentic user opinions. They want to know what actual people are saying about these brands, about products, about services, and so forth. So that's why consistently, when we look at an AI visibility dashboard for one of our customers, we will see a lot of Reddit citations. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how do I action on that, later in this presentation. But I just wanted to break those two things down because I think that's really, really important. And, I said earlier, SEO, some of the elements of SEO that you spent a lot of time and effort and money on over the last 10 years are still there, right? Your website schema is still important. That's going to help you get cited. But the nature of the content, I think, is what's changed. The clear preference for human-generated, expert-led thought leadership style of content and user-generated content from real customers, partners, people that are out there in the wild, that's something that is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. And it's really changing your link building strategies as well. So I think that we've fully gotten to an era where quality mentions and quality citations are far more important than just a quantity of citations. And again, we'll see that in AI visibility as well when we look at things like sentiment analysis.
100%. So I'm going to show high level the dashboard now for AI visibility so that this stuff is, at least some context for you guys as we continue to dig in. This is, again, going to be a high-level overview, but we're going to dig into each of these fields with more granularity as the workshop goes on. Basically, as you guys begin to audit your generative engine optimization strategy, and regardless of what tool you're using, I mean, we obviously encourage you to leverage AI visibility because it's baked into an ecosystem you already have access to that lets you get to the solution faster, right? We're not here to just tell you, hey, you better have a better radar for how you are being cited and mentioned in LLMs. I mean, that's important, but that's a means to an end. You could have all the data in the world, but how are you acting on it? How is it changing your content strategies? That's what today's how-to is all about. So if we look at the actual dashboard here, right? So this is a demo dashboard here. Disclaimer, AMD is not our customer. So
we'd be happy to have them, though.
We'd be happy to have them, guys. Call us up.
Referrals or anything.
I heard the chips industry is booming lately.
Yeah.
So, folks, this is a typical dashboard for AI visibility in MarketScale Studio. And I just want to highlight all these different fields here, right? A high-level overview of how your brand is being mentioned and seen and your share of voice in the market. You can customize your prompts, right? What prompts are even being fed to ChatGPT, for example, that you can use as a point of reference? What are the responses you're getting from that? Where are you being cited, right? The reports here. What kind of sentiment is being communicated in these answers? Am I perceived as a hated company or am I a beloved company or somewhere in the middle, right? Market landscape. How do you rank across different specific sort of corporate lanes, right, of decision-making and strategy? Everything from ESG to, customer satisfaction to general trust in the market. Content recommendations, big one, right? What do you do with all of this data? Well, the recommendations are baked in here, right? So I just wanted to high level showcase all of the data that you have to work off of because not all of this is something that you need to tackle literally every single day. The point is you need to set yourself up for success using a tool like AI Visibility to help you track key information, you lay the right foundation, and then you get useful data that helps guide your day-to-day content strategy. So let's go over this high level, right? You've got quarterly/monthly, you've got weekly, and you've got daily action items when you are refining your GEO. So start to take notes here, folks. Quarterly, you should be making sure that you've got your competitors properly set in AI visibility and that you've locked in the prompts that you want this kind of, pulsing radar tool to actually seed out to LLMs.
And
So
Daniel, if I can
let's look at
jump,
that. Yeah, go ahead.
just to jump in on this, the reason it's so important to do this on some regular cadence, and quarterly, I think, is a pretty good suggestion, is that, the competitors you might want to focus on in any given quarter might change based on market conditions, based on new product launches. If you're putting in new prompts, for example, let's say that your sales team has been telling you, hey, we've been hearing a lot of questions about X, Y, and Z from our customers. Well, maybe you want to create some prompts that would be, what a customer might ask about X, Y, and Z. Maybe you compete with a different competitor set for some of those products or some of those questions. And that's where I think it's important to, once a quarter, go in, make sure that you've got the competitors set correctly. You can add or remove them. You can see here, Daniel's got this page pulled up, very easy to do. It just makes sure that as you're looking at your prompts, you're actually comparing yourself to the right group. You've got tons of recommendations here, actually in platform for suggested competitors that you could put in. And if you're a MarketScale customer already, you're going to have about 6 competitors that we've selected for you in your AI visibility tool already. You can adjust that. You can edit it. Let's make sure that we get that right, because that does lay the foundation for the things that you want to do on a monthly and daily basis.
Right. And same with prompts here. This might be even more important. I mean, really, they go in tandem, right? You want something like AI visibility to know who are you wanting to weigh yourself up against, right? Who's your actual competition that you need to gauge? Like, am I being more cited or more mentioned than XYZ competitor? But at the same time, you want to see exactly on what prompts are y'all being compared, right? Which prompts do you want to use as the metric to see how well you're being cited and mentioned? These prompts are critical, and they should reflect real questions and real needs that your customers have. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, right? When we're talking about prompts, you should be looking at real world questions that your customers already have or that the market is having, right? If there's a huge mix up in the supply chain and, chip supply is at risk and you're a chip manufacturer, there may be buyers out there who are going to GPT and asking which chip manufacturers have the most secure supply chain. That's a timely question that is contextualized by timely news. If you're a smart marketer out there, we got to make sure we position ourselves well here. So I need to be creating content that highlights how well our supply chain is diversified, who our partners are, how we ensure supply chain resiliency, right? And all of that starts with understanding like what's going on in the world around me. But also, what are you hearing on sales calls? What kind of questions do your customers have when they're trying to make a buying decision? Do you have a lot of issues, support tickets around something to do with your software, your service, right? What are your competitors trying to muscle their way into in the market? You should probably have some content that reflects that too, right? So again, this can help then guide and dictate the prompts you load into AI visibility. These prompts then are the ones that get pushed out to GPT, Perplexity, right? To Gemini. Those then gather responses and they return those responses to your dashboard and let you know, are you being mentioned and are you being cited downstream from those questions?
And Daniel, it's a good time to mention that if you, for whatever reason, are struggling coming up with some prompts, there is a prompts research feature. So you can see that under tools here on the screen you've got pulled up if you, right there. And this will help you actually find topic prompts. So this is AI powered discovery. So I think that, most of our customers are going to be able to come up with a good handful of prompts just based on what is going on in the business today. But this is a nifty way to supplement that research and maybe generate some of those new prompts that you want to begin, researching over time.
We've got a great question here in chat, which is directly related from Alejandro. Alejandro asks, how are you most effectively building up a prompt list? Is it safe to say prompts are like Google search queries? That's a great place to start. Yeah. You want to think about, put yourself in the shoes of your buyer. what kind of questions are they asking themselves to help them make a strategic and informed decision on which partner to go with, which supplier to go with, right?
Yeah, I think that, it is sort of the new version of the Google search query. The best way to think about it is to put yourself in the searcher's shoes. What might you ask AI or ask, your LLM of choice about your brand or about your product set, your competitive set of products? So you want to put yourself in the shoes of that customer, and that's going to probably put you in the right mindset for how to generate a good prompt. Think about something that you buy in your personal life that you've gone to GPT for and you've asked, a series of questions. Now apply that back to your business. And people really kind of buy in a lot of the same ways in B2B that they do in B2C, even if the buying group is a little bit larger. So that's probably the best way to think about that.
Yeah. Another really good question here from Sherry. Sherry in chat asks, if the content is gated or in a subscribed platform, does the topic still pull or does the link still show up? An example being Substack. So I would assume no, usually, if there is a literal paywall or like ad wall blocking that content. A really good way to test this is take a link to a piece of content you would expect GPT or Gemini or whatever would be able to read. Literally take it into that LLM, plug in the link and say, summarize this article for me, and turn on the search functionality. See what it says. If it gives you an actionable summary that clearly means it read the text of the article, then it can read your article. If it doesn't, or it gives you a really vague one, it may even straight up say, I can't access that link. Then you can assume that something like AI visibility here would not be able to access that content either.
And so another good kind of call out here, for those of you that have spent a lot of time, focusing on SEO in years past, this is going to have to do with the way that those pages and the content's tagged. So, is there an indexing tag or is there a no index tag on that content? Obviously, if it's a no index, it's not going to be findable, just like it wasn't, when you were just Google searching. So that's a little bit of a technical GEO SEO type of question, but that's probably where you're going to find your answer.
Totally. So back to this, the cadence map. We've covered quarterly. What should you be setting in an infrequent but consistent manner to help lay a strong foundation? Your competitors and your prompts are the big ones. Who are you comparing against, and what do you want to show up in, right? What questions matter to you? This will likely change quarterly, and at, maybe maximum, it's monthly. Like I wouldn't change these too often, or else it's going to be hard for you to gauge success. Are you actually growing on those metrics that you're trying to improve at? You need to have some stability to that foundation to see if there's improvement here. And I think quarterly is a good place to start.
And I'll mention as well that the prompts automatically rerun. So your existing prompts, they're gonna rerun each week. So if the responses are changing as a result of changes in the landscape and of the content that's being put out, you will see those changes in the responses because the prompt runs each week automatically.
Exactly. So now the next layer, how do you take your strong foundation and turn that into useful data? This is where you want to start to fine tune your weekly workflow. At the longest interval I would recommend here is monthly, but really we're starting to look at weekly because, like Brandon said, a lot of these elements in the platform will automatically refresh and give you a new data node at about a week time, right? A week interval. So let's jump back into Studio here, right? Weekly, we recommend at the very least, make sure you're checking your overview, the radar, and the market landscape layers of AI visibility. So how do you do that? Let's get into it. Here again is the AI visibility view in MarketScale Studio. Let's jump right to overview because this is going to give you a lot of information all at once. Again, this refreshes around once a week. You can filter this down based on when you want to actually, see relevant data. You can filter by which models you want represented, as well as which competitors in your list you want to actually compare against. And now you can see, okay, over the course of the last 90 days, where am I in this breakdown, right? It looks like I'm actually doing all right. I've been kind of competing for space with NVIDIA. I almost beat NVIDIA out, and then it looks like NVIDIA is actually, oh, look, I beat NVIDIA there. Now NVIDIA is topping me again, right? So it looks like we're actually fighting for that second and third spot here. So that would be a good sign. That would be saying to me as a marketer, the content I'm putting out is being competitive here and is actually elevating our visibility. So here on overview, you're going to be able to see mentions, right? How many mentions, literally number-wise, did I have in that last week or on those days, right? Brand visibility. How visible is my brand? What share of market voice do I have in these responses? When an LLM gives an answer on the top 5 best companies for chip manufacturing, am I in that top 5? How often am I in that top 5, right? A full breakdown of your voice, citations. This is critical. How often is your content being referenced as a source of authority and truth?
And I just want to pause
where
there.
Are you being cited?
Yeah. I mean, you see here, we talked about it earlier, but Reddit being one of the top citations for the LLMs. It's really fascinating. Now, obviously, we're using an example here with AMD that's going to naturally have a lot of conversation in an ecosystem like Reddit because they also have a strong gaming element to their brand, and there's a strong, B2C kind of consumer side. But we see this across B2B companies as well. You'd be surprised at the number of mentions in Reddit and then YouTube as well as a big area of citations. So this is something that I think kind of plays really well into a content strategy because these are areas that you can actually influence.
Yeah.
And I think we can, Daniel, I'm pretty sure you're going to go to market landscape next, and we can break some of this down a little bit further. Yeah, here we go.
Absolutely. So again, the how-to here, folks, is once a week, you should be going to your AI visibility dashboard. You should be going to the overview section and seeing how have my content strategies from the last week affected my visibility, my citations, my mentions, and my overall share of brand voice, right? If you want to get even more granular, you can leverage Market Landscape. This is a very new aspect here of AI visibility. We launched this within the last week. And this is letting you drill down on even more metrics that might be important for you. These are some of the metrics that if you're a marketing leader, you're probably being asked about in the boardroom, right? Hey, how is our brand being perceived? Hey, we've been pushing hard on that ESG initiative. Does the world know about that, right? Are we seen as a respectable professional brand, right? Solvency. Does content think that, or does an LLM out there perceive us as being financially solvent, right? Do we have good reputation? What about our leadership, right? What about our prestige?
And it's really cool, I think, when you look through this, and a lot of this is, borne out in the reality, right? You think about all of the press that the NVIDIA CEO has had, for instance, and you can see that it showed that they're perceived as, I think they were top on the leadership dimension. Yep, there we go, leadership right there. I think that it's really cool seeing some of this, and we're going to talk here in a minute about how do we actually influence it. But in order to know what content to create, we need to actually understand how are we being perceived. What is our reputational, perception out there? Because especially in B2B, trust is one of the biggest components for making a sale. Buyers are going to buy from trusted brands, trusted companies. So I think that these reputational kind of market landscape dimensions are really, really important.
And we can rest assured if we're AMD, we're already being pretty well perceived as having a high quality product. So maybe we don't need to push so hard on product related content, but clearly doesn't look like anyone in the chip industry is doing that great on environmental sustainability. So maybe this isn't even that much of a priority either. It's not much of a priority for anyone. So like, is this where we really need to put all of our, content energy? But if you look at some of these other ones, the gap is a lot wider. So service quality for NVIDIA is an 89. The next highest is 79, and you're at 78 if you're AMD. So their customer service is pretty renowned, and everyone else's is kind of being left in the dust. If that's important to you as AMD, now you know I should be making some content that boosts my service quality. More importantly, I should probably be investing in more customer service resources that then lead to more Reddit comments saying I had great customer service when I worked with AMD, right? You got to be thinking a few dominoes down the lineup here as you are putting this data to work. So the how-to here, again, for the weekly level engagement is you want to be checking your overview and market landscape data to gauge how did the foundations I set up, once a month or once a quarter, how are those actually influencing change in my perception, right? And then how's the content that I'm executing daily influencing that data? Is it going up? Is it going down? Am I making any change at all? All right, so now let's get into the daily, because this is where, again, spend 90% of your time here. If you set the right foundations and if you pulse check at least once a week to see how your content is guiding your data, right? You can spend the rest of your time actually doing what matters here, which is taking all this info and having it influence new content. More importantly, new user-generated content from your communities. So let's look at those recommendations here. This is one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of AI visibility. AI visibility is one feature within a UGC engine, right? If you have access to MarketScale Studio, you have access to a ton of tools and workflows that help you decentralize content creation and tap your experts to lead from the front. This is now giving you a roadmap for how to put those experts to work. What content, beyond what you see as gaps in your content portfolio, should you be prioritizing? And here in content recommendations, you're going to get a basically checklist, a how-to checklist of content that's going to, A, boost your AI visibility. So it's going to boost your mentions and citations, but also recommendations on social and user-generated content specifically, right? This is content that, yes, does also support your AI visibility, but is primarily around expert-led content and content that will go and feed out onto LinkedIn or Reddit or YouTube. And coming soon, actually, we're going to be including LinkedIn in our citations lineup. So you'll be able to see how you're perceived on LinkedIn too. I know a lot of our marketers out there are likely asking questions around that too. So I want to start to get even more practical with you here, Brandon, as we approach the end. Let's do a live demo here. Let's step into the shoes of the marketer. It's Tuesday morning. We got through our busy Monday of catching up, from over the weekend. And now it's time to map out some strategies for the week and start to crush. What is our 2-minute audit, and how do we start to move based on the data and the information that we've got from overview, market landscape, and recommendations?
Yeah, so Daniel, what I'm focusing on any given week are the action items from content recommendations that I can take that week. So before I dive into some specifics on what I would do looking here at what we've got on the screen, I just want to mention with these two tabs, AI visibility in social and UGC. In the AI visibility tab, we're going to see some things that are maybe even beyond just pure content, right? Some of the things you'll see here are optimization opportunities. So one of the ones that I kind of noticed, if you scroll down a little bit, Daniel, on the medium priority, was the technical suggestion for adding structured Q&A schema for some key pages. So what this recommendation is basically telling me is that for my FAQ and Q&A pages, we want to make sure that we have some actual structured data, a structured data markup, if you will, so that the LLMs can source that rich content and better use your FAQ and Q&A pages as a citation, right? And that's going to ultimately help you appear in more searches, be cited more often. So this is a bit of a technical suggestion, right? This isn't necessarily, hey, go change the content. This is change the way that the content is being indexed or being basically crawled. So that's kind of a higher level suggestion. That's something I would actually do sort of outside of the ecosystem. But then I would spend a lot of my time, if we go back to UGC and social, in actually creating the content that's going to influence change. So two things that jump out to me. I see here a suggestion for creating some YouTube content, an AMD for local AI miniseries. So what's really cool about something like this is that you can directly create this content in MarketScale Studio. So there are a number of ways that you might go about this. The simplest way would be, of course, you could have your team upload video content that's relevant and photos and so forth, and actually use MarketScale Studio to create multiple videos, edit those videos, get writing to accompany those videos with the AI writing tool, and ultimately publish that on your website. But we could actually take this a step further. We could, because we're talking about maybe a mini series, we could also tap into some external community members. So what if we did something like we use the request feature in MarketScale? Maybe we send some media requests. You could see here, Daniel's got it pulled up. Maybe we send some media requests to some customers or some partners of ours to actually answer questions that are surrounding this topic. That's going to be a way for us to collect true user-generated content that can then go into a broader video or that video series. So I think that this shows how I would naturally use these suggestions to come up with content concepts and actually execute those concepts within the MarketScale ecosystem. So you can see here, Daniel is showing a great example of a question that you might ask, a particular customer or a partner. So Daniel, if we hop back here, if we scroll down here, I believe there's another one. So the Create an AMD for Creators resource hub. So what this is telling us, it says that there's consistent questions about whether AMD is good for Blender, AutoCAD, and Revit. So what I might do here is I might say, okay, where are some communities of 3D design artists? And where can I start to seed some content? And maybe, again, I can actually create content with some creators that are in this space. Maybe I go to YouTube and I find a creator that is a Blender expert doing really crazy 3D content. And I actually ask them to join my podcast, right? I could do a video interview with them. What's great about creating that content, not only can you create it in MarketScale Studio, right? That makes it easy, but then that creator or that other third party that you invited onto the podcast, they're probably going to share that content out as well. That then becomes another backlink, another citation opportunity for you coming from a third party source. So I think that is how we kind of come full circle with all of this. You can see how we took a recommendation, we analyzed, what are the suggestions, and then we actually acted on it through MarketScale Studio and through tapping into different users that are part of our ecosystem.
Couldn't have put it any better, man. That's spot on. So folks, again, AI visibility here is the means to the end. The reason why you should have a tool like AI visibility, and the reason it's even more powerful within Studio than as a third-party subscription or service, is that it's not just data. It's data with recommendations and one click away from a toolkit that helps you accomplish this content, right? UGC, user-generated content, is more often than not one of the best answers to how do I get myself more mentioned and more cited by LLMs. So our how-to here, again, is quarterly or monthly, you need to be mapping out your competitors and your prompt research. Get your foundations right. Monthly to weekly, you need to be checking the radar. Is the content that I'm creating moving the needle on the areas that I've said are important for my strategy? And then last but not least, and where you really need to be putting your energy, is the content itself. Leverage content recommendations, right, to guide some ideas for real pieces of content you can put out there, and then tap your experts, tap the pros, the voices and the faces, the customers, the colleagues, the channel partners that are going to communicate that message with authority. I want you guys to lock that in. Tattoo it on your forearm, right? Authority. That is really the driving motive force behind this entire GEO strategy. It doesn't really matter if you hit all of these pieces of content and you cover your bases, but it's all AI generated slop, or it's, kind of lifeless walls of text. What an LLM is looking for is content that communicates authority and trust, because that's what users of LLMs are looking for. So your content should be doing the same, and that's where people, your users in user-generated content, your community, can do that heavy lifting for you, right?
There's something that is a little bit poetic about it, I guess, that the LLMs don't like to cite LLM content.
Exactly.
They like to cite content from real humans, real authenticated content, stuff that you can trust. You just ask yourself, how many times have I searched for something and put the word Reddit at the end of my search because I want to cut through the crap and I want to get to some real opinions about it? LLMs are basically doing the same thing. So it's a little bit refreshing in a way to know that your human-led content, your expert-driven content does have a place. And in fact, it is now at the forefront of what a content strategy is in 2026. So it's super exciting stuff. And we're really glad that you're with MarketScale and able to leverage some of these tools to make your lives a little bit easier and to achieve some of those content goals.
Exactly. So folks, we're going to lightning round some final how-tos here. Get your notepads out. Make sure you're taking some action item notes here to influence your strategy for the rest of the week and the rest of the month. So your 2-minute Monday audit should begin with, first, check your mentions, check your share of voice, and check your citations, right? Is there any motion on the metrics that we've set up as important for ourselves? What's the us versus them? Are we muscling out the competition in terms of share of voice? And then citations, right? What are the actual channels? YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn, Google, our company page, a random popular industry publication. Who is referencing us and where do we need to be getting content to generate more authority? Okay. Then ask yourself these 5 questions. This is your action board. Okay. What is missing? What is the content gap? Now ask yourself, what kind of asset is going to fix this? Might it be an FAQ video? Do we need to do compare and contrast? Do we need to just mock up an entire new page? Sometimes the asset is I need to create a Reddit account and start engaging in conversation on Reddit. Literally, that is one of the suggestions that you're going to start to see in the social and UGC side of your content recommendations. Look, launch local AI office hours on local LLAMA. So essentially it's saying, hey, you need to just go be a user on Reddit and you need to open up a community engagement lane where you talk to people on a forum board. That's not really content, is it? It's a community engagement habit that it's recommending for you. But it's channeling the heart of UGC, which is leading from the front with expertise and building trust and authority, right, with that expertise. Now, critically, who's going to say it? That's essential, right? You don't want all of your content to solve for these content gaps to be coming from an agnostic place of just the brand is saying this. Okay, why should I trust the brand, right? or it's all coming from just this one guy. Our marketer does. Every piece of content is the face of every piece of content. What about your engineers? What about your CEO? What about your product head? What about your senior sales VP? These people should be leading from the front. Same with your customers or your partners. Then what's the fastest motion? How do we make this happen within the week? You don't want to be charting out content lanes that take a month to execute. You can have some of those, but you want content too that you can knock out within 48 hours, that you can record real quick, send an edit request in MarketScale Studio, get it back within 24 hours, polish it up, post it, done. You knock that off of your GEO strategy list. And then figure out what does done actually look like. Set a goal for yourself using all this data. Again, like we've said, UGC is a secret weapon here. Authority and trust is what you are fighting for. So you want real people participating in your content. When I say UGC, the way I like to simplify it for newcomers is it's real people sharing real insights with the gear they have on hand. So real experts, real voices in your community, leading from the front with their expertise and creating content in a way that's fast motion, quick, done, ship. I film it selfie mode on my phone. I capture it like this, product demo. I film it on my webcam. I have, Bob in sales film me real quick, done. So it could be your colleagues for technical deep dives, could be your customers for narrative proof and outcomes, or it could be some of your channel partners to show market validation. Here's who makes up our network and who makes us strong.
I'll drop a mention here on the partner side. With your MarketScale subscription, you do have unlimited free guest users. So your partners can quite literally be active participants in your content creation in your subscription. So that partner content is, in my opinion, some of the most valuable because they will actually share the content out on their channels as well. So you are getting double or triple the distribution for no more effort than you would have if you were just doing all the content yourself.
Exactly.
As Ronald put it, 1 + 1 = 3. That's spot on.
Exactly. 1 + 1 does equal 3, folks. That's MarketScale math for you. Okay, so now what kind of content should you be creating? I really wanted to make sure we hit on this slide before we end here, right? Because when we go back to MarketScale Studio as your toolkit for creating content, the content creation tools themselves are very simple and straightforward. They come into focus once you have a real reason for putting them to work. And more importantly, you understand who you are activating and how you're going to get content from them, right? That's critical. Are you going to record with them, sit down right in the platform? Are you asking them to log in and upload their own content they've captured proactively? Are you building a media request to kind of simplify the intake and formalize the ask of content? So this can look like a lot of different styles of content. Scenario B here is one of my favorites, the power hour. You don't always need to be having that one shy engineer give you content every single week. Maybe that's just not realistic. But what if you take an hour of their month, you sit them down and you pose 20 Q&As their way? Well, now guess what? You pose 20 Qs and now you've got 20 As and you can chop those up into a whole suite of content. It can be one montage. It can be an FAQ library. It can be thought leadership you post directly to LinkedIn. It can be videos you send to customers for onboarding. The power hour is very powerful, okay? But for recurring themes, you want to be thinking of, if you're looking in your content recommendations and you see constantly recommendations for local AI, right? You should be doing content around local AI, around creators in, the AECD environment. Well, maybe you need to launch 2 new series that put some content out once a week and help you build cadenced content, a foundation of insights that will feed LLMs. LLMs like a lot of information because a lot of that information is going to prove that you're an authority on it. One article on a subject may not convince an LLM that you're an authority on a subject, but a consistent blog post with an expert video once a week, every week for an entire quarter, that's going to boost your numbers. So that's the how-to here. If you see a consistent lane, you need to be launching a series around that lane. Find a content champion, get some weekly takes. It can be short and sweet, 90 seconds or less, but it's going to help you build that rhythm that makes you seen and makes you cited. And then never ignore the customer spotlight here. One of the best ways to build trust and authority is to have the insights come from your actual users. And people tend to approach this from the testimonial angle. There's nothing wrong with testimonials, but you got to consider the human element here. When you're asking someone to share their thoughts on your product, it's not always as sexy as, hey, customer, we would like to spotlight your best practices. Hey, customer, we would like to celebrate all your wins. Join our customer celebration podcast. We're going to ask you questions about how you're leading in the market. That's a testimonial, but it's not being presented as one. And it helps you build trust.
Yeah, what I like to see here as well is do something that becomes marketing for your customer as well. So yes, these are really good opportunities to book an on-site video. Again, something you can do right here in the platform. Kind of like you'd order an Uber, you can book an on-site video. Book one for a customer spotlight and go into that customer, that case study or that on-site video with an express aim of creating a couple different videos. Sure, one or two of them are going to be solidly, benefiting you, but make sure you plan for one that is a little bit just more about their business and something that they could use for marketing themselves. You're going to earn some great brownie points with a key customer, of course, but that's also how you're going to create that shareability where they're sharing the content, you're sharing it out as well. So just a mention here, if you're looking at those customer spotlight opportunities, you can do them, directly within MarketScale Studio. And you know what? If on-site is not going to work, you can also do the media request as well and get those testimonials or get those spotlight videos remotely. So you have different options for tackling that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Again, folks, means to an end. The data is here to help guide your content strategy. At the end of the day, auditing your GEO and improving your GEO all comes down to what content you're putting out. And there's a lot of different ways to tackle that. You can sit people down and interview them in a one-on-one Q&A. You can ask them, hey, go out to the trade show, capture that media I need, upload it into the platform for me so I can build a piece of, useful content. You can request it from others. If it's part of your subscription with MarketScale, like Brandon said, book that on-site. Get a professional crew out there. If it's really important that this content be cinematic and really high quality, maybe it's like, the showcase for your new product. Well, you probably want to make sure that that's, booked with an on-site crew. And I promise you're going to be getting better bang for your buck booking directly through MarketScale than through a third party. So Brandon, that about covers it. We've hit on the main stuff here. I want to wrap by just pulling back up our cadence map. I think this is the most important how-to here again, right? So any final thoughts here? And more importantly, final action items and how-tos for our audience. What should they take away from today's presentation and put to work immediately?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that you can break this down in a way that makes it manageable. So kind of like we've done here with the quarterly, weekly, daily mindset. I know it could be a little intimidating when you jump into the dashboard. You see all these different metrics. You're like, where do I begin? There's so many different things that I could be focusing on. I think that if you take nothing else away from this, think about how you can break this down in a way that is repeatable for you. Because if you do treat this as a repeatable process, something that you do truly on these cadences, you will see results. It's a little bit, I guess, like working out in some respects, right? In that first week, maybe you're not totally, seeing the results or something along those lines. But if you keep it up, you do truly see how these things change. And what's really cool about the platform is that because it does automatically do things like rerun your prompts and run the analysis, you're going to get updates on your progress as you go. So I think that this makes it actionable. I think that the biggest thing for our audience to focus on is how do you put those content recommendations into practice? And how can MarketScale make that easier for you to do that? So those are kind of my takeaways, and I hope that everyone learned a little bit here and had some fun. And Daniel, I appreciate you having me on as well. Always a good time.
Of course, man.
Yeah,
hey,
absolutely.
Any opportunity to get another Mizzou Tiger
That's
on
right.
the broadcast, I wouldn't say I'm like nepotism pilled here or anything, but I'm gonna have to do some favors for our Mizzou Mafia. So
that's right.
You know how it goes. All right, folks. So again, we'll end by looking at the dashboard. Once a quarter at the very least, you're going to want to go to your prompts, flesh these out, what questions you want LLMs to be pinging for you to gauge citations and mentions. And you want to be polishing up your competitors, right? Which you can see here, down here, preferences. You can add more competitors. That's once a quarter. Once a week at the very least, you want to be looking at overview to see how is my brand shifting in terms of these areas of mentions, visibility. Is the content that I'm producing making an impact? You can also get even more granular in market landscape. And your final how-to, at least once a week, if not daily, you want to be going to content recommendations and using these content seeds as inspo to knock out your next useful piece of UGC. And once you see something great, you go into MarketScale Studio and you determine a content capture lane. You sit down with that creator, you ask them to upload, you turn them into a content champion, you send them a media request, right? Maybe you blast one out to your entire customer network for a great insights montage. Maybe you build a series, maybe you launch a podcast, maybe you do a one-off for that FAQ page. But it all starts by setting the right foundations and then acting on them daily with content recommendations. All right, Brandon, I think with that, we're done. Brandon, again, Chief Commercial Officer here at MarketScale, thank you for your time today, for bringing the swag, bringing the heat, and bringing the good how-to action items for our audience here. I'll make sure to get you back on soon.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of UGC Workshop Live. We go live every week, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central, right here. You can find more of our sessions on marketscale.com. Go to our resources tab, go to workshops, and you'll see a full lineup. You'll also see previous episodes. You want to tap into all of our workshops where we go over why you need to build a UGC channel, right? Where we go over how to give a better edit request on your event recap content, on how to turn your trade show into a UGC bonanza. Next week, we're covering how to launch and manage UGC in a highly regulated industry like healthcare. If you feel like you're a red tape mummy, then you want to bust out the crypt and you want to come to next week's workshop. So don't miss out on all of our education, folks. If you have any suggestions or ideas or areas that you wish you had a little bit more guidance on, let me know. I'm always down to cook up a workshop for you. All right. So we'll see you guys soon. I'm Daniel Litwin signing off. Voice of B2B. We'll see you on the next episode of UGC Workshop Live. Peace.